Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Matters of Faith, the radio show. Matters of Faith is a show designed to bring
everybody.
issues of interest
Welcome
to you,
to
the
Matters of
listening
Faith, the
audience,
radio show.
that will challenge,
Faith is a show
encourage,
designed to
motivate, and inspire you to keep the faith. I am your host, the Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell, and it's my job to engage you in stimulating dialogue that's inspiring, encouraging, motivating, dialogue and conversations that will help you build your determination, your commitment, and your character. Conversations that will help you keep the faith. Everyone born of God overcomes the world. This is the victory that has overcome the world, even our faith. 1 John 5 and 4. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, without further ado, it is time for Matters of Faith, the radio show.
Hey, everybody. It's Monday, August 21st. It's 8 o'clock, and it's time for Matters of Faith, the radio show. Reverend Dr. J. Lauren Russell here. I'm your producer and your host. And tonight we're talking about the topic and the subject. Put on your listening ears. Put on your listening ears. We're broadcasting live on Matters of Faith as well as the J. Lauren Russell Facebook groups. Telephone and tell a friend. They don't want to miss this episode tonight. My very special guest, Renee C. Hill, Esquire. Telephone and tell a friend. You don't want to miss this show tonight. Put on your listening ears. Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and J. Lauren Russell Consulting LLC, for all of your church financial consulting needs. Check out our website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. That's www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. Or simply give us a call, 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096. If you want to train your trustees, if you want to develop your property, if you need a church loan, give us a call. We'll be there to help. Matters of Faith, the book, can be purchased at my Cash App, $ Matters of Faith. The cost of the book is $22.80. That's $22.80. You can send your check or money order to the JLR Company, Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. That's Post Office Box 301, New York, New York 10035. Get the book. It will absolutely bless your life. You can also get it as an ebook. All you need to do is go to www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. That's www.smashwords.com/books/view/993177. The book has no shipping and handling if you get it as an ebook. And also check out the Eat Okra app for all black-owned restaurants all over the nation. That's right, Eat Okra. And finally, subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Make sure that you subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Let me add just. And now the article. Put on your listening ears. That article can be found in my column, Matters of Faith, at the Bronx Chronicle, www.thebronxchronicle.com, Yonkers Insider, www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com, Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com, Black Westchester Magazine, and Pamela's Big Heart newsletter. Put on your listening ears. And now the article. Put on your listening ears. Romans chapter 10, verse 17 from the New King James Version. So then faith comes by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. Put on your listening ears. The Apostle Paul wrote this letter and took great care to give an orderly and logical progression of theological truth so that he would not misdirect, misinform, or misguide his readers. He was being steadfast in his effort to make sure that the message of the cross was clear because the eternal souls of the people were at stake. Early in the epistle, he tells his readers to put on their listening ears and listen for the word of God. One of my favorite daily devotionals is What Every Christian Ought to Know Day by Day. Author Adrian Rogers says that true biblical truth is, quote, rooted not only in knowing God, but in hearing from the God that you know, unquote, page 241. To know God is to be able to distinguish his voice from the chatter of many people and the misleading verbosity of many books. cultivating your listening skills means that you must learn to listen in everything that you do. You must listen while you're reading so that you can weed out the noise and hear his voice. You must listen when you're socializing to hear him speak to believers and non-believers alike. You must learn to listen when walking down the street or riding on a train or a bus or in a cab or in your car. You must cultivate the art of listening so that you can hear the voice of God everywhere. The importance of hearing the voice of God is given in the first verse of the chapter, quote, that they may be saved, unquote. It's the salvation of the eternal soul of the individual that Paul is most concerned. If hearing the voice of God saves souls, we simply must put on our listening ears. Be blessed. Here's my question tonight to complement the article. In what ways can we cultivate our listening skills so that we hear the voice of God in everything and everywhere? Let me ask it again. In what ways can we cultivate our listening skills so that we hear the voice of God in everything and everywhere? This gives me a great deal of pleasure, and it is my honor to introduce to some and present to others my very special guest this evening, Renee C. Hill. Renee is an extremely accomplished trial attorney who has been defending clients from all walks of life for over 25 years. Throughout the boroughs of New York City, Westchester County, and Orange County, Ms. Hill has tried over 100 cases, including several high-profile matters ranging from homicides to minor assaults. Some of her clientele include persons in the entertainment industry and radio personalities. After graduating with her Juris Doctorate from St. John's University School of Law in June of 1992, Ms. Hill began her career as a criminal defense attorney when she became an associate with the law offices of Murray Richmond. Under Mr. Richmond's tutelage, she honed her trial skills and courtroom presence, which led to her achieving excellent results for her clients. She quickly became recognized as a fierce adversary, certainly one to be reckoned with, and amongst friends, she was nicknamed the Queen of the Bronx. Having caught the attention of many of her colleagues, she was named as one of the top hot new attorneys in the criminal justice area by the New York Post, November 26, 2000. Ms. Hill has received numerous acknowledgments, including being named a super lawyer by Thomson Reuters 2021 through 22 and 2022 to 2023. In late 2011, Ms. Hill partnered with Stacy Richmond Esquire to form Richmond Hill Associates PLLC. Additionally, Ms. Hill serves as Chief Conflict Counsel of Bronx County for Joey Jackman Law. Ms. Hill also served as the acting justice of the Village of Harriman Court from September 2008 to April 2015. Ms. Hill appears regularly as a guest on Court TV, providing legal commentary on the most relevant cases happening around the country. She has lectured for a number of continuing legal education panels for various associations and has been a guest speaker at the Well conferences, speaking to young women in the Leadership Academy at Princeton University. Ms. Hill is admitted to practice in the Supreme Court of the United States District Courts of the Southern and Eastern Districts of New York, and all trial and appellate courts for the state of New York and New Jersey. She is a member of the National Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, a past president of the Black Bar Association of Bronx County, a board member of the second vice president of the Bronx County Bar Association, a board member of the New York State Association of Criminal Defense Lawyers, a member of the Metropolitan Black Bar Association, and a delegate for the New York State Bar Association House of Delegates. Ms. Hill is also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. So, Matters of Faith family, would you welcome with me tonight my very special guest, my friend and my colleague, this Queen of the Bronx, Renee C. Hill, Esquire. Okay, so did I get all of that in there?
Yes, you sure did.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, you know, I want them to know that you are somebody special, that you're here for a purpose, and you have a purpose in being. And so welcome to Matters of Faith yet again. So before I do anything else, I'm going to ask you this question. I think I asked it before. I'm going to ask it again.
Yes.
Your bio has been read. People know about you, but tell us something about you that we don't know and we really should know.
I am the sweetest person in the world. I am very pleasant until you cross me.
All right. I love it. 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 So we ain't gonna be doing no crossing, that's for sure.
None of that.
Well,
None
they
of that.
said, yeah, in your bio, you said fierce adversary. I did see that, right?
Yes. Yes.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, welcome to Matters of Faith. I'm glad that you're here.
Thank
I'm
you so
really
much for
delighted
having me.
because of the topic that we're going to be talking about tonight in terms of putting on your listening ears. And I think you're going to give us a perspective on that we generally don't think about because most of us are not attorneys. But
Okay.
the judges who might be watching, they'll understand. The other attorneys, they may understand. But us regular folks, you know, we don't have those kind of listening skills that they teach us to read and to listen to everything that a person is saying, even when they're using their physical or the physiology. So there's a lot of ways to listen. There's a
Yeah.
lot of ways to cultivate your listening skills. So, but listen, tell us something because, you know, I know a little bit more about you than maybe some of the others do. So I'm going to ask you a question that I want you to elaborate on a bit because they just celebrated a monumental occasion last week on a street that you grew up on, and it's called the birthplace of hip hop. And I just happen to know that it was on Cedric Avenue where you grew up. So talk about that. How'd you feel about that they're celebrating hip hop on the street that you grew up on?
Oh, it felt great. That they, you know, just came together, put this whole thing together and really, really celebrated. There were celebrations going on all over the Bronx, but they had celebrations happening on Cedric Avenue. DJ Spice Nice was DJing right down from the building from 1520, and Spice used to DJ when I was a child. I used to try to get out of the house so I could go to the block parties up on University Avenue.
All
So
right.
Spice to be there DJing was very nice. And you know, it was just great. I've always known that that's where hip hop started and where it came from. My older brother was always, you know, out and about and coming back home and talking about what was going on. So it has always been a part of my life, and it was really just a beautiful thing to see. So I felt great. And
did
just
you go back? Were you able to make it by? Did you
I
get
was
by?
not able to make it by over the weekend. That was actually my birthday weekend.
Oh, right.
So hip hop 50th birthday was August 11th. And my birthday is August 12th.
All right.
So
Now.
I was out and about celebrating
Okay.
that. But yeah, it was great.
Yeah, I couldn't make it by either. But one of my friends who that used to DJ with me during that era,
Yeah.
put something on our Facebook. He found a bunch of 45s.
Ah.
He put them, and I was like, yeah, I've got a treasure trove of those. And my
Yeah.
friend said, you sure do. So I've got like a storage space downstairs full of 33s, 45s, you name it, I got them.
Wow.
I got them. And then I see a picture of me DJing one day. I have a picture of me with my shirt on and all that kind of stuff. It was kind of cool.
Yeah. Headphones and all.
Headphones. Well, I never really had, my hair was never longer than this. It's never been longer than that.
Okay.
So I never had one of those nice big fros and stuff. So I had to do it other ways. I was able to grow facial hair, so I always had like a beard. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So I was doing that before James Harden and LeBron James. It just wasn't thick. It's always been like this. Always been nice. But I'm the bearded one. I was the bearded one, or the sideburns.
Yes.
So, yeah, that's interesting because now we got a hip hop museum.
Yeah.
Got you know, and people are recognizing what it is. I mean, the transition from what it was coming, you know, in the very beginning to what it is now is both inspiring and depressing.
Yeah.
You know, inspiring because I love the way it's gone to become a business in and of itself, and that many people are absolutely taking advantage of it and have lifted themselves financially from all types of areas and are doing extremely well. I like that. What I don't like about it is the for lack of a better word, the raunchiness of a lot of it that takes place in that genre.
Right. Yeah, because you know, each generation has used it to express themselves, but so much has come out of it, as you've indicated, and it's gotten very raunchy and very violent, unfortunately.
Right.
And some of it is
Busy.
people, right, keeps me busy. But some of it is people speaking from their truth,
Right.
what they see on a daily basis, and then some of it is people, who are just trying to put out a certain persona of a life that they've never lived, and sometimes those are the ones who create the music that is most violent, and and those that who really don't live that life, but they want people to think that they do. So until they find themselves in troubles and needing people like me,
Right.
and it's all about, oh no, those were just lyrics.
Yeah.
So
and not understanding that those lyrics have consequences, and it's not a game. I mean, when you pull that trigger, or you take out that knife or whatever you do, that we're talking about human beings. We're talking about real people. This is not a video shoot. This is reality. And I think sometimes they, tend to forget that. I don't know how you could possibly forget it, but it seems like they're not paying attention to the reality that is, and they're just dealing with the facade that they've created.
Yeah, and the game has definitely changed. It's my colleagues and I talk about it all the time. The clientele has changed over the years, and unfortunately, and I think we spoke about this the last time I was here, but the clients are getting younger and younger because the youth don't value life. They don't value the consequences of their actions, and innocent bystanders are getting hurt. They're getting killed for no reason at all, and crimes are occurring for no reason at all. I used to say, not that murder is ever condoned, but back in the day, if a murder occurred, right or wrong, you understood why it happened.
Right. Yeah, there was a reason for it.
There was a reason for it.
Even if it was dumb. It was a dumb reason, but it was a reason nonetheless.
There was a reason for it. Now, homicides are happening every day and there's no reason for it at all. There's no basis behind it. So it's really a sad state that we're in. So when we do have things that we can celebrate, like hip hop's 50th and how people came together, I thought it was beautiful that everything went off without a hitch at Yankee Stadium. As far as I know, nobody, there weren't any issues, no fights, no nothing. That was great, because I was actually very concerned about that too. That's something
I had some concerns, but when I was watching it, I didn't go. I was watching it, but I saw the transgression, or no, excuse me, the well, is it transgression? Yeah, okay. From the earliest stars in hip hop up to today. And I saw the transgression that took place. It was a smooth transition. And you saw that as it was taking place when the older started to come out, then the younger started coming out, and you started to hear the difference in the music that was being played. And you started to hear the difference in the lyrics. If you could hear and understand the lyrics, there was a sharp change in what was being said. And when we talked about, and you said it before, that it is speaking from their truth.
Right.
Their truth sometimes doesn't reflect the kind of truth that leads to better society.
Right.
It leads to, okay, you're expressing yourself and that's okay. But what benefit is it? I mean, you're just like kind of blowing off steam, and other people hear it and they say, yeah, I feel that same way, but there's no what's the word I'm looking for, or the phrase I want to say? There is no positive outcome from all of that, except that you'll make money.
Right.
Because they'll promote that. The record labels and the companies will promote that because people buy that. Yeah. Yeah. That to me is heartbreaking.
Yeah, and that's where it cuts two ways, or both ways. That's the sad part of it. And because, the people in this industry create a platform and they have a following, and people they look up to them, they listen to them, and sometimes it's not fair because the entertainers battle to get to where they are, but they're not necessarily asking for everything that comes along with it, meaning they didn't ask to be a role model, they didn't ask to be a mentor. And these are the things that sometimes come along with the glitz and the glamour. And so, you know, when people are looking up to these individuals and they're saying, you know, I wish I had what they had, or I wish I were in their shoes, they really should sometimes really, really think about it. I mean, money is great. We would all love to have the money that some of these entertainers have, but think about the life that these entertainers have as well, outside of the glitz and the glamour and what we see every day on television. But when they want to go to the grocery store or just run into, you know, anywhere, I just want to run outside and grab something real quick.
Doesn't happen.
Like regular human being, and they can't do it.
Exactly.
And they miss that too.
You live in a fishbowl.
Right.
You literally live in a fishbowl. I mean, I'm not, you know, I don't pretend to be famous in any shape, form, or fashion, but because of this particular broadcast, I'm recognized a lot of places. I'll be at a place and they'll say, "Oh, I know you."
Right.
And I'll say, "I've never seen this person in my life," but they'll recognize me because they've seen this show, they've seen the, you know, the advertisements that we put out and so on and so forth, and they say, "You're matters of faith." Now, thank God, it's a positive thing, right? So they see it, they recognize. But it's interesting because I've been in theaters, I've been, you know, in the movies, and people come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you're Reverend Russell," and I'm like, "Yeah," you know, and so we talk because it is amazing. But I think about what would happen if you had the kind of fame,
right?
People recognize you everywhere, anywhere you go. Michael Jackson's life was a mess. I mean, you know, you think about it. Michael Jackson literally could not walk outside anywhere.
Anywhere.
Nowhere in the world. Anywhere in the world. Muhammad Ali was the same way.
Yeah.
You know, these persons who do that, they have a persona that exceeds anything that we could imagine. Exactly. And the higher up you go, the more recognition you have. I remember I was at a airport and I saw Common. He was standing on his phone talking, right? And I recognized him, right? And I said, "Nope, not gonna do it." I didn't walk over to him this big. I just kind of, you know, gave him the brother nod. You know, when the brothers walk crazy, they nod each other. I nodded at him. I knew who he was, but he was on the phone, and he deserves his space too.
Right.
And so I said, you know, it's not a problem. I don't need him to sign an autograph for me or anything like that. I just just let him know that I recognize him. And that's an interesting point, because the things that go along with fame, what you give up in order to get what you think you want.
Right.
You know, so you better develop listening ears, because sometimes you need to listen to what other people are saying about this life that we call fame and the fortunes that come with it.
That's right.
Does take a lot out of you. One of our viewers, and it's a friend of mine I've known since I was 5 years old, he said, "Yes, I remember CDP Productions," which back in the day we started. He was the P in the CDP. I was the C, and my boy was the D, and he was the P, and we did a production, and that's what we did. I will never forget it. We did it in 1977.
Wow.
1977. I never will forget it, and it was an amazing experience. On this track, we wanted to, you know, take our hip hop music, if you will. We didn't even call it hip hop then, but we wanted to take our thing to the next level. So I didn't like park playing. I didn't want to be out the street. I didn't want that. So I promoted my own parties. So the first one we did was at the Savoy Manor.
Wow.
I'll never forget it. Never forget it. I mean, it was a monstrous success, because we had all of the other, you know, we had one of the smaller rooms. They had a lot of rooms. We had one of the smaller rooms. And in that smaller room, you know, I was in college. So we had a whole bunch of people we could market to.
Right.
And I mean, you know, young ladies were getting out of cabs by the dozen, coming to our room. All the other places, you know, they were like, "What's going on over there?" So all the guys in those rooms, they started coming to our room to party with us. And I mean, it was like this. It was just jam cram, but it was fun. It was fun. And I remember at the end of the night, we just had a good time. It was fun. There was no fighting. There was nothing like that. And just to be completely transparent with everybody, we had door prizes. You know what my number one door prize was?
What?
Ounce of marijuana. That's what I gave away. So just to be completely transparent, so y'all don't think that I was born a minister. No, I was not. I was a DJ, a real DJ, and I did real DJ kinds of things. So just to make sure, just to keep it transparent. No, I wasn't always this guy. I became this guy over time. You know why? Because I was listening. I was listening, paying attention to what people were saying, and recognized that there was a different life cut out somewhere for me that maybe didn't include being the DJ that I thought I would be. But I'm doing this now, and it's the same focus.
Right.
Giving a word of encouragement, because that's what I did as a DJ. People who can use it.
Yeah, and you do it well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I so appreciate that. In fact, and let me just thank you. I want to thank you publicly for those of you who are watching. Just recently, I was elevated and installed to the district governor for Rotary District 7230. For some of you who don't know what that is, it's a service club. It's a worldwide service club. They have like 1.4 million members around the globe, 529 districts around the world, over 200 countries. And I'm the district governor for one of those districts, which is amazing. And
so proud of
my guest tonight came to my installation. I was so glad to see her. It was amazing. And I just made my day. So thank you so much.
You are very welcome. I was honored to be there. It was a beautiful evening. It was a great turnout. And I was just so happy for you and so proud of you. So
well, thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. That's one of those things that you know, you do because it's good for humanity. Absolutely. And I want to make sure that the people in my community from Cedric Avenue, Boston Road, where I grew up, where I came from, have access to the resources that are available in organizations that we don't even know exists.
Right.
You know, so we're going to do that. In fact, in line with listening, one of the things that I want to do, and I'm going to do in my year as governor, is I want to do a district-wide speech contest. So I'm going to be calling on you because I want Friends of Rotary to do it as well. We're going to do a district in different areas because we're in Staten Island, New York City, the Bronx, Lower Westchester, and Bermuda. So I want to do that speech contest in different areas and engage the young people in all of these different areas so that we can expose them for the you know, for the real brilliance that they have.
Yes.
And started as a speech contest so that anybody can participate. You don't have to be athletically inclined. You don't have to be gifted musically. Anybody can do it, and everybody needs to know how to do that. That's why it came up for me, the speech contest. And then later on, hopefully those who follow me will continue to do it and broaden it so that it becomes an essay contest, and then it becomes a debate team, and who knows where else it can go if they decide to continue it. But it can include people in the communities that, you know, normally are on the outside. They're on the outs, you know, they're on the outside, they don't participate, but now I want them to become involved.
Okay. So, that sounds great. That's wonderful.
Yes, I will be calling on you for sure.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So listen, let's talk about this article, because the article is it kind of, you know, I was challenged with it. I really was. I had something in mind. I didn't know how it was going to come out, but I was challenged with it. I came out with, you know, put your listening ears on, because, and I was thinking about when I was writing it, how oftentimes we miss the voice of God and we go in directions that we probably shouldn't go in, and then we miss the voice over there too. And how can we sort of position ourselves so that we can actually listen and hear through the noise and the confusion and the you know, all of the distractions that we have in our world? How can we literally listen to and then focus on the voice that is our guide? That's what
you know, for many people, that's probably very difficult to do. Hence they become my clients, most of them. Right? Yeah. But everybody, each one of us has that inner voice, I think, when things occur in your everyday life or things are happening, and you have those moments and you have the opportunity to think about what you're getting ready to do and make a choice on what you're getting ready to do. And you have that inner voice. And, you know, sometimes when we were kids and we would watch the different cartoons, Tom and Jerry. And I think there was one episode where Tom wanted, even Jerry, both of them, they wanted to do something. And then a little devil Tom would pop up shoulder, and the angel would pop up on the other shoulder, and they're both whispering in the ears, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have those fictitious characters within us, all of us, because we're always going to have that inner voice that's telling us, you really shouldn't do this right now. And it's whether or not you're going to listen to that inner voice that's telling you, hold up, don't do that, or take a step back. Think this over. Let's think twice about this before you do this. Now, I'm not talking about the things that happen in a split second and you don't have a chance to think about it, but things that you really do have an opportunity to consider. You have to listen to that inner voice, or you should listen to that inner voice. And I say to my clients, I've said it before, sometimes I posted it on my page, but it's a small quote: you're always one decision away from the worst decisions of the rest of your life. And you have to give yourself that opportunity to think about that decision that you're getting ready to make, because it could change the rest of your life. So those are my thoughts.
Well, I'm writing that down because you're going to hear this one again.
Okay.
I like that. And it's true. It's very, very true. I remember for myself, I made a conscious decision to help somebody. And it turned out, you would have loved this case. You would have taken it had you heard it then. It turned out it was a decoy situation. And I was trying to help somebody, but the police came and arrested me.
Yeah.
My whole life changed. Everything. I lost my job. I had to move into a different scenario, different situation. I mean, everything changed, and it changed immediately.
In an instant, right? And that's the no good deed goes unturned.
Right.
You were simply trying to help someone and found yourself in a situation, extremely unfortunate. But excuse me, in that particular case, and I trust and I know everything worked out well. That was a situation that you chose the right thing. Right. You chose to help someone, and you had to go through an unfortunate circumstance to make it through to the other side, and clear your name. And that's unfortunate, because that makes people not want to help others. Right. And we are supposed to always be about helping others, or we should be, right? Trying to look out for those who can't look out for themselves, and just extending grace to others. And sometimes when you do that, and a situation like that, which occurred with you, happens, then moving forward, now you don't want to be involved. Now you might want to walk past, that person on the street that looks like they need help because of what happened to you. And only whether or not this is something that you can get past and try again to help someone, or how far you will go to help someone without knowing that person and what you're actually getting into. It's a fine line when people extend themselves to others. It's certainly a fine line.
It really is. I mean, in this case, I can say this, that it was one of the most stressful periods I've ever gone through in my life.
Yeah.
And I was a young guy, I was a young man, and things were like happening to me. Like I told you about the CDP productions. I mean, things were happening. And then this decision to help somebody. And it took a long time for me to figure out psychologically who I was. Because I had to take a lot of introspective looks, deep looks at myself. In fact, I began seeing a psychologist that I saw for like 3 years. 3 years. But it was probably the most transformational period of my life. It made it truly, as someone said, while you're going through those trials and tribulations, you're developing roots. My roots grew deep. And so I know who I am today, not necessarily because of that situation, but through that situation, I know who I am. Yes. And so I have no qualms about helping people, because that's who I am. And as I look back over the years, I was like, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Right.
Because that's who I am.
That's who you are. Exactly.
Right? And I will never let anybody take me out of being who I am just because of a circumstance or situation that could come out of it that may not be, quote unquote, and to my best interest. But I still can't stop helping people. And that's what I learned about me that was so inspiring. And when I look in the mirror, I like that guy looking back at me.
Yeah. And as long as you continue to like that person looking back at you, then you know you're doing what's right.
And it's interesting because your statement, right? You're always one decision away from the worst decision you can ever make. Is that what you said specifically?
Yeah.
Right. And so, I think about that. And I, in my counseling as a minister, I tell people all the time, I say, listen, the thing that my mom used to tell me all the time, my dad too, my dad in particular. Mom was a little more spontaneous than my dad, but my dad was real cool. He would say, count to 10. And I would say, count, just count to 10. Just relax, take a deep breath. Before you do it, take a deep breath. Think about it. Because like you said, you're just one decision away from the worst decision you could ever make in your life. And so I think about that. I think about my dad. I think about some of the things I saw him do and how he exercised this level of self-control that I still respect to this day. And he's been dead 45 years.
Wow. But he instilled that in you, and yeah, it's there. And
it will never. In fact, I'll guarantee you, one of my viewers, Peter, Anthony, guarantee you, he'll say the same thing about my dad, because he impacted all of us in the same way. And that's the amazing thing, that he had the same kind of an influence on my friends,
right,
as he had on us.
Yes.
As children.
Yeah.
Sometimes even more so. Sometimes even more so. But that's what I'm, I didn't always listen to Dad during those days. I heard him, but I don't listen to him. Because as I said, I gave away an ounce of marijuana at a party, and that was illegal, right? But I did it. So I wasn't always listening. But when he was no longer there, and I couldn't box with him anymore, right? I'm shadow boxing, and there's nobody there. So the only thing that was left was all of those things, all those pearls and jewels that he dropped in my spirit. They just kept coming up. They just kept dropping into my spirit. So what I have to hold on to is all of those things. Right.
And you honor him.
Oh,
you honor him by remembering those jewels that he was dropping.
And I share them too. So I want other people, take this.
As you should. That's right. As you should. And you pass it on to others so that they can accept it and acknowledge it and take advantage of it if they so choose.
If they so choose. And that's the part that really in the article that I kind of, look to, if they so choose. Listening is a decision. You don't have to listen.
Right.
Hear the words. It's like, you hear the music. Music can be soothing, or it can rile your, wildest into instincts. But it can be anything. But you hear it. But are you listening? Are you listening?
Right.
I heard a song last night I hadn't heard in a long time. Two of them actually. One was Ship Ahoy. Remember that by the OJs? Ship Ahoy. Well, you probably don't, because on that same album was couple of real big hits. That was the name of the album, but that didn't make it really big. But the other ones did. I can't think of the name of them offhand. The other one was 1 in a Million by Larry Graham. And those two songs was very significant. If you listen to them, listen to the lyrics. Ship Ahoy was about slavery.
Okay.
And if you get a chance to, anybody who has it, just Google it, Ship Ahoy by the OJs, and listen to the lyrics. Listen to what they're singing. It's an amazing song. So we hear it, but are we paying attention?
Right. Right.
let me ask you this question, because, you know, I like law. I like the idea of practicing law and
Mhm.
all of the things that you learn as an attorney, particularly as you idea a jury and panel and things like that. You listen.
Mhm.
You listen for things that the ordinary person would not hear, right?
Yeah.
Can you talk about that a little bit?
Uh, so, I mean, specifically in selecting a jury and
Well, no,
broadcasting
I mean just the listening skills. I mean, how do you the
skills
skills that you've developed, yeah, to listen, to hear what
to
people
hear
are saying, maybe not coming out of their mouth.
yeah, so it's a combination of everything. It's a combination when you are listening, the skills I think that I've developed are listening exactly to what the juror or the prospective juror is saying, listen to what they're not saying, um, listen to how they're saying it. It's everything. It's their body language.
Mm.
It's the look on the face. It's whether they are, you can look at a person and tell when you are speaking to them or trying to engage them in conversation if they are receptive to what you are saying. So I'm looking at all of that. So as part of listening, a person can answer a question for me if I put something out there, and I say, can you, knowing what you know about this case right now, can you be fair to my client? Can you give him a fair trial? And they could sit there and look at me and be slumped down in the chair and, eyes diverted away and say, yes, I can, but not look at me, look me in my face and tell me, yes, I can. And that's going to tell me something. I'm listening to what you're saying. You're telling me that you can be fair, but your body language and everything else is telling me that no, you really can't, or you're not really being truthful with me. And one of the questions that, as part of just listening and engaging people, and primarily for me, when I am selecting a jury, one of the questions that I do like to ask every prospective juror is if they were seated where my client is seated at that particular time at the table, would they want a juror such as themselves on my panel? Because only you know whatever your internal biases are. Everybody comes with biases no matter what. Everybody's got a bias for something, right? But only you know yourself better than anybody else. And only you know if you truly can be fair and impartial in this case. So would you want someone like yourself seated on this jury if you were my client? And if you wouldn't want someone like yourself, or if you know that you're not giving my client a fair shot and we haven't even begun, then you know you're not the person for this case. So a lot of times people won't think of it that way until they're posed that particular question. Would you want someone like yourself seated on this jury? Can you be fair? Can you really be fair? So that's kind of a side note from the listening skills, but I get to that point by just watching people. And not only when I'm speaking to them, but when everyone else is speaking to them, when the judge is speaking to them, how they're responding, when the prosecutor is speaking to them, how they're responding, what they're saying and what they're not saying. Because you can always tell when there's something that somebody wants to say something else, but they're not really saying it. Just by looking at them, just by looking at the expressions on their faces.
I call it chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
Can't wait to get it out. So go ahead and say
it. Get it out, right? So yeah, so just listening skills includes just really paying attention to everything surrounding the person that you are engaging with to really hear what they're saying.
That's an interesting perspective, and I'll tell you why I say that, because of course my article is twisted or turned towards listening to the voice of God, right?
Right.
But the practice should be applied across the board, because as you're, and this is what I was hearing, so this is how I was listening to you just now. As you listen to people, as you ask questions and watch what they do, you're also listening to see whether or not there's any compassion in them, or there's anything in them that will allow them the opportunity to see things differently than they may have seen it before. And if they don't have that capacity then that person may not be the one that you want to sit in that jury pool, because they might be the one who really becomes the the anchor that draws everything down.
Yes.
That's what I heard. And then, of course, when I think about it from a theological perspective, if you are looking at it, what you're saying is that, for me, that God is love, and God is compassionate. And if you're listening to the voice of God, then you'll be looking to see whether or not that person has any God in them that they can share with somebody else, so that you become attuned to his voice. So whatever comes out of a person's mouth, out of their gestures, out of their demeanor, I always say to people, can't hear what you say, because what you do speaks so loudly that it overshadows everything that you say. So they can't hear you because they're watching what you do. And so if they're observant, they can see that.
Mhm.
And because God speaks to us in so many different ways, if we're not attuned to the voice, then we may see an action of someone and think it's God speaking to us, but it's really not God speaking to us at all.
Right. And that also goes back to that inner voice.
Yes.
That voice that you hear when you're getting ready to do something that you shouldn't be doing. And you hear that inner voice telling you, I really shouldn't be doing that. And to me, that's God speaking to you, telling you that's not the decision that you want to make. That's, to me personally, that's your angels watching over you, telling you, don't walk down that road. That's not the path that you want to go. And if you ignore that voice within you, you are readily and intentionally ignoring that voice within you. You're choosing to take the path that you shouldn't be traveling, and now you're going to suffer the consequences. So that little angel over there and that little devil over there. But to me, that angel, that inner voice, that's God speaking to you. Like you said, God speaks to us in different ways. There are different things. I know my mom is one of my angels, and sometimes there are just certain things that I see, and I know that's my mom, or that's God speaking to me. That's my angels speaking to me through the things that I see. It might be a bird flying in the backyard, a red robin. My mom used to love them. And, I don't see them a whole lot, but when I do see them, I say, you know what? That's my mom sending me a message that she's still around. She's still here. She's still with me. So.
Yeah. That's interesting, because nature, all creation belongs to the Lord, every bit of it. And that, do you remember the story of Elijah? When Elijah was running from Ahab and Jezebel?
Yes.
And he went up into the mountain, and a storm came by, but the Lord wasn't in the storm. And a fire broke out, but the Lord wasn't in the fire. And then after the storm and after the fire, a still quiet voice came by. And that's where the Lord was. And so I contend that, when you develop proper listening skills, you're able to hear the still quiet voice of the Lord through the storm, through the fire, through the raging. And so all of those things are happening, but you're in the eye of the tornado where it's calm. You can hear, and then you listen. But if not, you can get caught up in the whirlwind of life, and it can just decimate you.
Yeah.
I am multitasking, and I don't type. I failed that course.
That's all right. Take your time.
Yeah, what I'm doing is I'm putting the question in the chat so that that everybody here can answer it, and that you'll know what it is. I'm going to pin it so that you see it. In what ways can we cultivate our listening skills so that we hear the voice of God in everything and everywhere? I think I misspelled the word, so let me edit it. So you guys can start answering that question, because when we get to the top of the hour and we come back, then we're going to look more at what you said, so that we can engage you in this conversation with us. So we're not just two talking heads, but we're going to engage your comments like we did with Anthony. We're going to engage your comments and hear what you have to say and what your comments are. But I want you to engage the question, because the question is really for you as our audience tonight, a way for you to take an introspective look at how you listen to things, and what you can do personally to cultivate your listening skills so that you can literally discern that angel from that devil, and then make the right decision so that you don't make one decision that's just an inch away from the worst decision that you ever made in your life.
Right.
So there's my disclaimer. We're there, but but you're saying some things that just radiating with me. They're touching my heart. Particularly as it relates to listening to people who talk and who don't talk. Because sometimes people speak louder in what they don't say.
Absolutely.
What they do say.
That's right.
Because people can talk a good game,
That is so true. And you got to listen, you got to observe. You have to pay attention. You have to pay attention.
So if you had a tool that you could give to someone to help them develop a listening skill, what would be one tool that you would give, one piece of advice that you would give people that they can use anywhere and at any time?
Patience.
All that counting to 10 stuff?
All that counting to 10. If you take your time and you have patience, you will hear what is being said. But if you're rushing, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss the lesson that's being taught if you're trying to speed through. So I think patience is most important to really hear what's being said.
That's good. Y'all wrote that down, right? Patience. Patience. Take your time. Don't rush it through. It's gonna be there. Just relax. Let it flow. Let it flow. Don't try to force it. There was a song, my DJing days again. If it don't fit, don't force it. Just relax and let it flow. It will surely happen if it was meant to be. Don't fit. If it don't fit, don't force it. And that's, again, see, that's something that some writer wrote, attached it to music,
right,
and we played it. But some people just listened to the music; they never heard the words.
They're not hearing the words, right?
Not hearing the words, and there was a lesson in there. There was teaching in there. Some people, they hear music and they just automatically jump up on the floor, and they like the lyrics, or they think they like the lyrics, but they don't know what the lyrics are saying. Because some songs that people sing, they don't know what they're talking about.
Right.
I'll give you one that I like so much. Alicia, what's her name? Alicia Myers. Alicia Myers made oh my God, help me out, y'all. Alicia Myers, she made, and it was actually a song about God.
Okay.
And I can't think of the name of it. Then there was another one. Denroy Morgan, huh?
I said it'll come to you.
Yeah, it'll come to me. Remember Denroy Morgan?
What's the name?
I'll do anything.
I'll do anything for you.
Do you know that he was thinking about God?
Wow. No, I did not know that.
Think about it. Right. I'll do anything for you. There's nothing in the world that I won't do. I give my word to you. If you want me to, I'll do anything.
Yeah.
And people missed it. Now they loved it. They got up on the floor.
The beat was great. Right.
Yep. I want to thank you. See, Lisa's trying to help me. Heavenly Father, for shining your light on me. Right. And everybody got on the dance floor. They danced, but she was singing to the Lord. She was singing to the Lord.
That one I knew.
Yes. That was kind of obvious, right? That was kind of obvious. And of course, the staple singers were great at doing that. Had a message in the music. McFadden and Whitehead, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. All of these songs that had lyrics that spoke to your consciousness.
Right.
I miss that. I miss that. I miss those songs that would talk to us and speak to us and challenge us to be better than we were before.
Yeah.
Let's see, June. Okay, so listen, we're at the top of the hour. We got about, no, actually, we got about 3 more minutes, 2 more minutes. So let's talk about that inner voice that you spoke about before. So you close us out at the top talking about the inner voice and how that voice has been speaking to you. And by the way, you could talk about that inner voice because you're a mother. You are a mother. You're a proud mother of a very dynamic young lady. So you can talk about the inner voice that talks to you about her. That's a good way to go into the top of an hour.
My inner voice talking to me about my baby girl, who is 28 years old now, to be 29 next year, June. But listen, proud mom. My inner voice just helped guide me to guide her. And she is a phenomenal woman. At the age of 28, a bachelor's degree, 2 master's degrees, and her PhD. Okay. She just crossed the stage in May with her PhD. So she is Dr.
Wow.
Renee Davis, and I could not be any prouder.
They got 2 doctors in the house, you and her.
That's right. She is phenomenal. And did it all with a 4.0.
Wow.
4.0 in every degree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm super proud.
I'm super proud. I was just talking to somebody this afternoon. I said, listen, to be 4.0, that's being perfect,
Yeah.
And that's not easy to do.
That is not easy to do. There were many nights, many tears cried, many broken nights without sleep. And but she did it, and she sacrificed for all these years, and it's all coming together now. It has all been worth it.
Wow. Well, what it says to me is that all things are possible.
Absolutely.
All things are possible. And then the other thing, of course, is that, perfection is not attainable by everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Just be the best that you can be.
That's right.
So if you do that, the Lord's happy, you'll be happy. Eddie Murphy said something once. Eddie Murphy said, I used to be the best. And that's what I did. He said, but what you were talking about in terms of the fishbowl that people live in,
yeah.
He said, being the best costs me a lot.
Mm-hmm.
He said, now I don't worry about being number one. Yeah. I just concern myself about being the best I can be. Mm-hmm. He says, and the pressure has vanished.
Right.
I'm not trying to be
the best you. That's all.
Right. Yep.
You don't have to be better than everybody else. Just be the best you. And whatever that produces, then so be it. Because my child, she wasn't trying to be better than everybody else. She was
that's
just
who she is.
The best. And that's right. Who she is.
Right. And her best brought her to the top of the chart. And
yes.
That's where she functions.
That's right.
So that's her level of functioning, and that's where she lives.
Yep.
So not all of us live there, but for those who do, God bless you. I tell you, I tip my hat to you. You weren't a straight 4.0 student, were you?
Sure was not.
Okay.
Sure wasn't. Nope.
That's cool. That's cool. So listen, I'm gonna. You can vanish for a second or two. I'm gonna do that. I'm going to disappear, and then we're going to go into the second part. I'm going to just recognize the sponsors and advertisers who have supported this broadcast and other things, and then we'll come back, and then we'll finish up the second half as strong as we started the first half.
Excellent. I'm going to grab some water. Okay.
There you go.
Don't forget to support our advertisers and our sponsors, the JLR Company and really putting on your listening ears. And I want you to do that. So the second half of this broadcast tonight will impart wisdom, knowledge, and you'll have an understanding that like you've never had before. So would you welcome with me again for the second portion of this broadcast tonight, my very special guest and friend, Renee C. Esquire.
All right, that's us. That's us. We're going to stop our share and we are going to get into what we've been getting into. So tell me, Renee, the word listen and the word silent use the same letters.
That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So in order to listen, you have to be silent.
That's right.
You have to be silent. You have to close your one mouth and open your two ears.
Ears. That's right. That
Now,
is correct.
a lot of chatter and a lot of noise, but you got to be able to weed through that so that you can really listen to hear the voice of the one speaking to you, the one who wants. And I think about this often. I mean, I think that the Lord just wants what's best for us. And we oftentimes act like we don't want what's best for us, at least what he wants what's best for us.
Right.
And I'm challenged with that. Silent. Listen. Okay. I'm gonna be silent and I'm gonna listen. You talk.
Well, I mean, if you go back and you think about the things that parents have said to us over the years or when we were younger, right? God gave you one mouth and two ears for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2 ears so that you can listen more than you speak. Some people abide by that. And they take heed, I'll say. Some people take heed to that saying and they listen more than they speak. Or they listen first and then they speak. They may speak just as much as they listen, but they take advantage of the listening first. And my mom always said, and I would overhear her say to others, and also to me, that I accomplished the things that I accomplished because I listened.
Mm.
As a child, I listened to the things that my mother said to me, to the guidance that she gave me. I followed the path that she kind of laid out and said, you could do it this way or you could do it the hard way, and trust me, if you do it this way, it might seem hard now, but it's going to be so much easier later if you just trust me and do it this way. So she would tell me that I accomplished the things that I did because as a child, I listened to the things that she was saying to me. And I think I credit my mom for that because I did listen to what she said. And moving forward, my daughter listened to me and look at all that she has accomplished as well.
You come from good roots. You got good stock.
Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely.
I did a little research. This is not your first rodeo here on Matters of Faith. So I know a little bit about you.
Yeah.
Your grandmother laid some heavy foundation.
Absolutely.
And then your mom picked up and ran with it. And you're named after your mom.
Yes.
You actually are a junior.
I am.
Now, your grandmother is it just blew me away. Miss Court. Miss Court.
That's right.
Well, tell us. She worked with one of these establishments that many don't even ever go to. They know there's a building there, but they don't even know what it's for.
Yes, she was the personnel director for the United Nations here in New York City. And my mother was one of the first, I think they were, I forget the numbers now, but one of the first children. 27. Yes, one of the first 27 children to attend the United Nations school that was opened back in 1946, I believe, 47, somewhere around there. Yeah, so my mom was one of the first of those 27 children, and my grandmother worked for the United Nations as the assistant personnel director in the United Nations. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. What did they teach them in the school? I mean, I never really knew that they had a school in the United Nations.
Right. So it they taught what's taught in preschool and kindergarten. It was regular school.
Mm-hmm.
It was regular school.
But just from an international perspective, because being in the UN all by itself, you got how many nations are part of the United Nations? Yeah, 1,000, couple thousand.
So my mom had the benefit of attending that school, and I never really got all of the information from her, and as far as how long she attended school there and all of that, but I just knew that was her beginning, and I have pictures, black and white pictures of my grandmother standing on the step on the first day of school, and my mom, a little tiny thing, standing there holding a little doll, and they were on the steps of the school, getting ready for her to go in. So I have those pictures, and yeah, it's just great. The women in my family are pretty awesome. They're pretty awesome. I come from great stock, and the men aren't too shabby either. My great uncle George. My great uncle George was the manager of Sugar Ray Robinson.
Really?
Yeah, we're a boxing family too. So I have pictures of Sugar Ray Robinson as a very young Sugar Ray Robinson in the ring with my great uncle George on the side of the ring. I've got pictures of Muhammad Ali and my great uncle George. I've got some great pictures that probably I could probably find duplicates of them in the Boxing Hall of Fame. If I go there and take a look, I'm sure I'll see my
You
uncle.
might have pictures that they don't have in the box.
And I might have pictures that they don't have. This is true.
And I it may be worth their weight in gold.
Yes. So I have several boxes that I still have to go through from after my mom passed away that are just filled with photographs and from back then. It's amazing, and it's really crazy. Sometimes I'll just Google my uncle's name, and all these pictures will come up of him and these boxers in the boxing world, and I'm like, that's my Uncle George right there. Like, wow. And my grandfather be in some of those pictures too. My mother's father. They were the men were in the boxing world, so the Golden Gloves and all that. I grew up in a boxing family, and baseball. Baseball was always on the TV. My great grandmother worked at Yankee Stadium. She used to take me with her all the time. Everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, you would go to the games." I couldn't stand it. Sometimes you live by the beach and you never want to go. I had the opportunity to be at Yankee Stadium all the time and never wanted to go. But I look back at all of those things. It was a blessing for sure. And definitely come from good stuff.
It sounds so. But and that's interesting because where you come from, your stock, and this is interesting because it cuts both ways, right? Some people come from stock that's just amazing, and others come from the swamps,
right?
Literally. But lilies grow in the swamps.
That's right. You can attain, and reach that greatness.
That's right.
Coming from either one.
It has nothing to do. I mean, it could add something to, but most of it is what's in here.
That's right.
If you maybe you would be the one to start the legacy that then goes from generation to generation.
Right.
That's your call. Maybe that's your responsibility. Maybe that's your duty.
That's right.
And so don't miss it. And I say that because, in this, and I'll go back to what we talked about earlier, this role in Rotary. This is historic because I'm the first African American to ever be district governor in this area in over 100 years.
Mhm.
You know, Rotary is like 100, what is it, 109 years old, 108 years, something like that. And I'm the first Black district governor,
Right.
African American. And so that's
Yeah.
significant in that it creates a legacy,
Right.
right? It doesn't have to be my family legacy. It's a legacy that can continue and roll on. And so it's important that you're listening to the voice of the Lord, because he'll speak to you in other areas as well. He won't just speak to you because you're sitting in church.
That's right.
He'll speak to you because you're out in the world. And the Bible says very clearly, don't you're in the world, but you're not of the world. So we have to live in the world, but you don't have to be of the world. So listen to the voice, listen for the voice, so that he can tell you what you need to do right where you are. Right where you are. You don't have to go anywhere.
That's right.
Just be who you are. Everybody else is taken anyway, so.
That's right. So you got to be yourself.
Be yourself.
Be the best self that you can be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So tell me, when you read the article, what came to your mind?
Just again, like I said earlier, patience. Be patient. What is listening? Listening is patience. That's what came to my mind.
Got it. Got it. So let's share some of the ratings that have gone on. I'm gonna drop back for a moment, and I want to look at Anthony Cohen. That's my buddy. We grew up together.
Okay.
ADP Productions. So he says, as a matter of fact, I'm developing an internet radio called CDP Radio. It's different genres of music for now. So he's gonna do well. He's gonna do fine. Right? And so let's see. All right, I'm not going to, Dow, thank you. I'm not going to read yours because it's talking about me. But Andrew says, good evening, Dr. Russell. Over years, I have developed a listening ear and a silent tongue and a faithful heart. My mother taught me how to pray and ask God for everything and sit in a quiet space and wait for the answer. I like that. Erica says, I tell my sons that today. I tell them to use that as a tool to help them cope. And you were talking about, the one thing that you said, take your time, be patient. And then Erica also says, where was it? I say that all the time. My mom is my angel.
Yes.
That's you.
Yeah.
And Andrew says, I have the patience of a saint. And Lisa kind of reminded me, I want to thank you, Heavenly Father, Alicia Myers. And then June said, I feel that you have to have love and empathy for others so you can hear clearly. Don't have the mentality, your issue. Let me make sure I get that right. So that you can hear clearly. Don't have the mentality, your issue is your issue, because that issue can become anyone's issue.
So basically, don't think, that you're better than someone else, because if you think you're better than someone else, then you're not going to hear what they're saying when they're trying to speak. You may block them out altogether because you may think they're not on your level.
Right.
But if you have empathy for others and you consider everyone equal, just because you might have a better job than someone doesn't mean that they're not a good person or anything else like that. So you should be able to extend to them the same courtesies that you would want extended to yourself. And Absolutely. If you extend those courtesies to them, then you can listen and hear whatever it is that they're saying when you are speaking to each other.
Yes. And Erica says, I recently had an incident that someone reached out to me anonymously and said some not so nice things to me on my retirement day. It was really not nice stuff that even mentioned my deceased mom and my children and grands. My initial reaction was to go back and forth and say not so nice stuff back to them. In the midst of it, right from my gut, something came over me and I began to pray for that person. Our body speaks to us from the inside. I listened to my inner person. That was God and my mom.
Yeah.
That's cool, Erica.
I like that. Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
I do too. See, because when you're listening, you can actually hear. You know, you don't try to silence them. You don't try to silence the voice, and you pay attention to the voice as it speaks. Because the Lord is always trying to speak to us. And as I said, if you ride in a car, you're in a cab, you're in a bus, in an elevator, no matter what, he can speak to us. He can, the Lord's voice can be heard anywhere and everywhere if you are open to hear, if you're open to listen. Silent, listen. Listen, silent.
Right.
Let's see. Congratulations to you too, Mom. Congrats to you too, Mom.
Thank you.
And Tracy says, I used to read a lot as a kid. And from those books, I saw heroes and villains. And I always looked for the reasons why they did what they did. Why did the hero choose to do the heroic things? I came away with a common list of virtues that they all seemed to pick, to act on. They were honest when they could have lied. They were brave when they could have been fearful. They were kind when they could have been mean, etc., etc. I think a person has to be in tune with the positive human virtues that come from God and listen for his voice telling them when to act on them. Yeah, Dowd's one of my regular visitors around here too. He always has these profound thoughts.
Yeah, I was gonna say that was very in-depth. And I like that. I like that.
Yeah, he does it all the time.
Mhm.
I love it. He always does it. Always does that. Kind of makes people say, "Wow, okay." and he's a Bronxite.
Okay.
He's from the Boogie Down.
That's right.
That's right from the Bronx. West Farms Road, even.
Okay.
So Erica says, I believe God speaks to us always. It can be through things that he does for us. And he also speaks to us when he doesn't give us what we want or ask for. Right. God is on his time. So sometimes we may think he forsakes us when in fact, he has never left our sides. I like that. Gloria says, listening ear, God gave us 2 ears for a good reason. Now, speak, Lord, thy servant heareth. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Let's see. I saw, who else did I see? Erica put something else here. Everybody has a story. We all are given beginnings, and we all control our ending. That's interesting. I heard someone says, we can always look back and we can pinpoint the beginning, but nobody can put their finger on the end.
Right. Because the end, that day, we don't know when that day will be, right?
That's right. That's right.
Tomorrow is not promised. So we if we're going to pinpoint something, we can only pinpoint what we've already done.
Right. And even those who are on death row don't know sometimes. That date can change too for people, because of people like you. Right.
That day could change for so many reasons, right? There could be appeals going on, there could be stays. They could pass away before the date gets here that they were to be executed.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
So even
don't look down on a person when they're down. It may be you or a loved one.
Right. Yeah, and sometimes people don't get it. A lot of people don't understand that they can end up in the same position as someone else in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will ask me time and time again, how do you represent the people that you represent? Sometimes they will look down on defense attorneys for the profession that we have, because we're representing people that are accused until they need you, until someone in their family needs a defense attorney for something that happens, or until they need a defense attorney for something that has happened. Because I have represented a handful of prosecutors who have found themselves in trouble, who, for years and years and years looked, at defense attorneys in a certain way until they found themselves in a predicament and recognized that now they were behind the 8 ball and they needed the very help of a person that they were kind of looking down. So sometimes until you are in those person's shoes, don't look down your nose at someone else because you can always be there. You could be up here today and down here tomorrow in the blink of an eye.
The Bible says, be not deceived, God is not mocked. That which you sow, that you shall you reap. So what we say is what goes around comes around. So,
Around.
and it's interesting because sometimes you think that it can never happen to me.
Right. Prime example in politics right now. What's going on with Rudy Giuliani?
Whoa.
Right?
Oh
He's
my
part of
God.
this most recent indictment in Georgia, where he's charged under the RICO Act.
Yep. Which he
very
used
act
to take down
he promoted
all of the mob.
right here in New York City.
Yep.
Right? That was his thing. That was one of his platforms that he stood on.
Yep.
And now he is the subject of a
Yep.
RICO investigation and indictment.
And it's my understanding that when you're indicted under RICO, it's a real hard defense.
Absolutely.
Because they have done, I know a lot of the prosecutors in the Southern District office, and we talk a lot.
Yeah.
And when they take you down the RICO road, they have done extensive research. That's almost a done deal.
Right. RICO charge that's like a catch-all.
Yes, sir. You got no out. You got no out.
Yeah.
And I mean, and federal time is no joke. I mean, it's like, it's no joke. And I mean, anywhere in the country, anywhere, you may wind up in Tupelo, Mississippi. Ain't nobody coming to see you.
Right.
Ain't nobody coming to Tupelo see you. And I mean, it's a lonely life. It's a lonely life. And I'm just, wow. Yeah, Giuliani was a prime example.
Yeah.
And he's staring down staring down the barrel of the devil's gun.
That's right. That's right.
Oof.
Yeah.
So Erica says, when I say we control our ending, I mean to say my mom said this all the time. The way you live is the way you die. If I died right now, I'm joining God in his kingdom. Not that we know our ending. Sorry for the confusion. Oh, we wasn't confused. I get it.
No confusion. No confusion.
I got it.
Yeah.
And Ashley says, amen. It goes to show you the importance of waking up and being humble every day.
Yes.
There, but by the grace of God go I.
Right.
I know there's a song that we sing in church. I used to complain that I had no shoes until I met the man that had no feet.
No feet.
Then I realized just how blessed I was.
Right.
So, we can't, and my brother, I want to say something about my brother. My brother's one of the most unusual people I've ever met. He's a year older than me, but he's a guy that people just love to be around. That wasn't me. I had to work at being liked. I didn't necessarily like people all the time. They used to get on my nerves. But my brother, everybody liked him. Everybody wanted to hang out with him. And I understand why. Now, he did some wild, crazy things. He spent a lot of time in jail. But his personality never changed. My brother will, be walking down the street and he'll see a homeless person. He will stop. He'll go to the store, buy 2 cups of coffee and sit down and drink coffee with that brother and laugh and talk with him as long as he can. And this is not pretentious. He does this all the time.
Wow.
And he's just an unusual person. He said, I remember we would debate and argue about some things. He says, I told him he was selfish one day, right? He said, selfish. He said, man, I'll give you the shirt off my back. I said, no, you'll give him my shirt off your back because you'll wear my clothes and then they'll ask you for it and you give it to them. I said, but that's not what I'm talking about. I was talking about him and the things he used to do criminally that got him sentenced to jail. And I said that was selfish because you never thought about the implication and the impact that it had on those of us who love you.
Right.
And you went away, and then we spent time incarcerated on the outside because you were incarcerated on the inside.
Right.
And he didn't quite get that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said, but then one day he came to me, he said, I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
He had a child. Child's mother was corrigible, was doing all kind of crazy stuff. And he said, don't you care about this child? And then he came to me and said, now I understand what you mean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting that you begin to listen. Sometimes you listen when circumstances change and something happens that brings your attention to this thing. And then you can hear, then you begin to listen, and then you understand. And so sometimes that happens when we do things ourselves, or circumstances happen, change, that create a situation that makes you listen. And I think personally, I think it's just the Lord using circumstances and situations to get your attention. Because you've been trying to do that all the time, but you weren't listening.
Right.
So the 2x4, you know, the 2x4 theory. Sometimes I gotta hit you upside the head, the 2x4, just to get your attention.
Yeah.
Now I got your attention. Now we can talk.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the way the Lord does things from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anything else you want to share? I'm gonna look and see what other people have written so we can bring them in.
Just one thing that just popped into my head when you said the Lord does things. He does all things, but you know, we have a saying that everything happens for a reason, right? And sometimes I believe that you know, when people are doing the things that they're doing and making the choices that they're making, and then they end up behind bars, and they're doing sometimes it's a lot of time, sometimes it's a little bit of time. You know, any day for anybody inside a day is just an eternity, you know, even just one day. But I say all of that to say that God sits you down sometimes for a reason. And I've had some clients where I believed, and I told them that, you know, you were here, and this was hard, you know, you were in jail, and it was hard for you while you were here, but you were here for a reason, because had you not been here, you might not be here anymore. Because I think had you been on the street, you would have been killed. So sometimes God removes you from a situation in a way that you may not see, and you may not understand why it happened the way it happened. But there could be a bigger reason behind it as well.
One of my guests a couple of weeks ago, he's a minister. He said, I did time in jail. He says, it's the best thing that could happen to me. So my grandmother was trying to tell me, you know, that, boy, you know, you grew up in church, but you're going to go down this road, you know, and it could kill you. And he was a drug dealer, and he thought he had it going on, and he got busted. And he said, I did time. He said, I did a lot of time. He said, I remember the first thing that I was told when I got to the prison: do your time. Don't let the time do you.
Time do you.
And my brother said the same thing, you know, because I've asked him, I said, Tommy, you know, how did you do that? I mean, you know, you're talking about like decades.
Yeah.
How'd you do that, man? He said, you know, either you adapt and you learn how to survive in it, or it will kill you, drive you crazy. And I remember one day he told me he'd been incarcerated for about 13 years, 14 years at the time. And he said, those doors closed one day. Bang. He said, man, this thing ever going to end?
Okay, I found this on the web for he said. Check it out.
And my computer's talking to me for some reason.
My apologies. I couldn't hear what you said.
Oh, good, because I'm not talking to you. So it was interesting that he talked about that, and that he you know, sort of acknowledged at a point that he had to learn what he needed to know in the environment that he was in.
Mhm.
And then he began to listen. Then he
Right.
began to listen. And it took a while, because when you spend all of your growing years
Mhm.
in an environment like that, since you were like 17 years old, you
Yeah.
know, it's difficult. I think we kind of sort of gloss over it from time to time. But when you spend your formative years in an alternative reality,
Yeah.
coming home can be almost like a, you know, a twilight zone.
Yeah.
Everything has changed. Nothing is the same.
Everything has changed. Absolutely.
You know, and you're in like, you like, you know what? I know that. So recidivism, it becomes the norm, unfortunately, because people say, I don't know this world.
Mhm.
I
And they
know
have a
that
very
world.
hard time adapting to it.
Yep.
Yeah, it can be very difficult. I have a very good friend who was accused of a murder and went to trial and was convicted of a murder that he didn't commit.
Hmm.
Age of um, 17 or 18.
Yeah.
And he served 17 years before that conviction was overturned. And then he finally was released, and he got some money, but nothing can get back all those years that he lost. And it was really, really difficult for him to adapt at first, because he was there for those formative years.
Yeah.
So, when he came home, of course, he knew, about cell phones and beepers, but, you know, but it wasn't something that he had,
Right.
those
Right.
things were not here when he went in. So there were so many things that were different in the world when he came out. And, he was fully exonerated, but it took him a couple of years to learn the things that we take for granted every day. It took him years to get out of a cycle of mentality. He had come to work in my office as a paralegal,
Mhm.
and his office was a small office, and he would literally, it was like the office became his cell,
Mm.
because he would come in and he would literally stay in his office the whole day. He didn't even want to come out for lunch, or it was just, and I didn't see it that way at first, but after a little while I started to recognize that that's what it was. And it really took some time. He's doing great now. He's doing great. He's doing wonderful things. He's been home for a long time now, several years now, and he's doing fantastic. But I reference that in my thoughts when I think about people who, whether they were rightfully convicted or not, but just anyone who has spent time in jail and then comes home and has to adapt to the new world,
Right.
to the changes that have occurred while they've been away. And even though they have contact with people on the outside, their family members or their friends, it's still not the same as being
Right.
there, being part of it, going through the changes that we go through. And it does make recidivism a problem, because some people cannot cope with the outside world, and this is why some people then intentionally do things to go back, because they just can't function on the outside. And that's something that needs to be addressed as well when it comes
Vigorously.
to
Vigorously. Yeah.
helping individuals get back on their feet.
Yeah.
And so many things that need to take place within the criminal justice system to help people so that they don't go back into the system because they can't cope, and they can't cope because they can't get a job, and they can't get a job because they have a felony conviction, so it's a cycle.
Right. And it doesn't end. And so, yeah, they paid their debt to society, but it's never paid off. And that's a problem. That's a real problem. Just as an aside, I wanted to say a couple of things. One was that a number of years ago, I started this ministry. I called it Back in Stride Again. And I was working with ex-offenders. I got some ministers that I knew, some friends of mine, etc. And we started this program that we began talking with ex-offenders
who and helping them to establish their own businesses, write business plans, etc. Because I you know what one of the things, because I half of my friends been to jail, and
Mhm.
and they come up, they can't get jobs or whatever the case might be, and they wind up sort of like on the lower end of the spectrum.
Mhm.
And so I ran into a friend hadn't seen in years, um, and I mean in years, and I remembered him from elementary school. And when I saw him, I could see life was kind of tough on him. I didn't know what happened to him and all that kind of stuff. So we started talking, and he said, well, he has a bachelor's degree, but he can't find a job. So what's your degree? And he says, in social work. I said, social work? Social work's a dime a day. You can find a social work position anywhere. But he
Mhm.
said, well, I got it when I was incarcerated. Well, wow, well, okay, how long did you do? 25 years. Wow. So then he started talking about he liked doing floors, redoing floors, like your beautiful parquet floor behind you. He loves
Yeah.
doing that. And when he started talking about it, he lit up like a candle.
Okay.
And I said, wow, I said, that's a business. I said, I had a friend that did that for a living. He would, scrape the floors down. I mean, it's a living. You can rent the equipment, you can go and do it. And you could establish a business and get that done, because people need that happen on a
People
regular
need
basis.
that done. That's
And
right.
I said, and quite frankly, nobody's going to ask you whether or not you were incarcerated.
Mhm.
Because if you can get the job done, they don't care if you ain't. And sometimes it's good that you're incarcerated, because tells everybody you got the chutzpah to get it done. But
Right.
nevertheless, when I was talking with him, and I said, I can help you to do that.
Mhm.
And listening for the voice of the Lord said to me, you can help a lot of people to do that.
Mhm.
You know how to do that.
Yeah.
So I started this ministry out of this relationship that I had with this brother.
Mhm.
And we did it for a few years, and it's a shame that we couldn't link up with like the Fortune Society and others, because they had the resources that could have helped to blossom this and make it into what it had. Because one of the challenges that we had dealing with ex-offenders who are immediately coming out of jail, probation, and parole, is that they had the one thing, and this is what I tell them, I said, you had the one thing going for you that people who have been on the outside don't have. You had time to think about the life that you want to live,
Mhm.
and maybe a business that you wanted to build or what you wanted to do. People on the outside have been kind of dealing with life one day at a time, and sometimes we don't take time to think about how we're going to fashion our future.
Right.
And so we would help them to think the critical thinking skills that they needed to do that. But the problem was that they needed a job now.
Yeah.
They don't get a job now, then they violate their parole, and then they're sent back to prison.
Right.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Problem. Because they can't find a job because they got a criminal record. And you won't let them develop a business because you want them to work now. That's a problem. And so it just a cycle that gets worse and worse and worse as time goes on. But at least it was something that we attempted to address.
Yeah.
We need to do it again. But I wrote the program. I got it.
Yeah.
Still available. We can still use it, because it's a viable alternative, or a viable method of doing something that can help. The other thing I wanted to mention was this. Remember the automatic seat belts? You used
Yes.
to cut pros like this?
Mhm.
My brother came home from jail, from prison. He got in the car with my sister, and the seatbelt went. He almost jumped out of his skin. He never seen anything like that before. I mean, my sister said she just started laughing, because that's normal for us.
Normal, right? But not for him.
Not for him.
Yeah.
I mean, like this thing coming down, like what in the world, like you trying to, this thing is trying to like entrap me.
Mhm.
And so he almost jumped out of his skin. I guess if they had checked his blood pressure, it'd probably been about 200 over 500 or something, because he was scared. He was
Mhm.
scared. So
Mhm.
but when all of those are, for me, signs of listening. We have to listen to people around us and
Right.
see what they need, how the Lord is telling us to work with them to help them to get what they need, so that they can become active, sustainable, productive members of our society again, if they were incarcerated or whatever the situation might be. But the Lord is still speaking to us, and
Mhm.
maybe we're the ones to help.
Right.
Or maybe if we are that person,
then maybe we're the ones who say to them, or they say to us, the Lord said that you can help me. And I'm sure you hear that a lot. The Lord told me that you can help me.
Yes.
I hear it every now and then myself.
Yeah. Yes.
So let's take a look, and then I'm gonna give you a few minutes because we're almost out of time, We're almost out of time. We got about 13 minutes left. But let me see what other things some people have said, and let's see if we can bring them in. And then I'm gonna give you like 5 minutes to say whatever you want to say, and then I'm gonna close out with what the Lord has placed on my heart. So Ashley says, amen. It goes to show you the importance of waking up and being humble every day. And my cousin Lorraine says, look what's happening to Trump now. That was according to our conversation.
That's right.
Fed time is straight time, not like state time.
Like state time.
Right. And she says again, I'm not perfect, but I know my good outweighs my bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then Erica says, well, she says, so sad. No, before that, she says, Reverend Russell loves everybody, and everybody loves him. I laugh at that. And then Lisa says, yes, everything happens for a reason, but later on in life, it will reveal itself why things happen. Yes, I agree with you on that. And then Erica said, so sad. May God remain at his side now and always. I guess those are the right? Doing time in jail is the most disciplined act any human being has to learn and adapt to. If only they would have had the discipline to listen on the outside, they could have all been avoided. That could have all been avoided. Doing time is not easy at all.
Right.
Erica. And June says, let me tell you guys, I like this. I'm gonna put my little like sign here so that you know I'm actually looking at what you say. I always say they need to institute the outside world inside the prison system. That's right. That's right.
One thing I can say that I've come to learn is that it seems as though they're trying to do that, because I'm learning that in certain facilities now, inmates are being given tablets or iPads. They all have their own individual tablet and iPad that they can communicate with their family members and friends to a certain degree.
Right.
They can kind of email. I don't know if it's instant email like what we have, but they can email and then, the person will get in, they can respond back. So they are implementing certain things that are mirroring what we have on the outside, but it's still not exactly what we have on the outside. But it seems as though they're trying to bring things more into the updated aspects of inside and outside.
Well, that's good because, the way it is now, literally, you go into another world.
Yeah.
Come out to another world.
Another world. And there's no rehabilitation there.
Yeah, it's not fair. It's not fair to society.
Right.
We live in a country that believes in punishment. Rehabilitation is not a part of the prison system. It's about punishment. And so we know this society wants to, hit the nail on the head every time.
Right.
They just don't want to, they don't want people to be redeemed. And that's why that's why, people who've been convicted of these felonies and other things never pay their debt to society, particularly the people of color.
Yeah.
If they're not people of color, it works differently. And I know that there's this thing now that, we don't want some people say they don't want the white population to feel guilty about what has happened in the past, but some of the things are still being perpetuated. And one of the is that, you are not allowing people to pay their debt to society and go on with life.
Right.
That's not fair. That's not fair. You got to give them an opportunity to move on, because they are still the same people who may have the cure to AIDS locked up. They're the same people. So without their input, we're losing. The entire society loses.
Right.
You know, you can't, Dr. King said, you can't keep a person down without keeping your foot on them. You know, you're there with them. Nobody's free from it. So we
Right.
got to learn how to grow and live together so that we don't perish together as fools.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna give it to you, my dear, and let you share with us in your own way. And then I am going to close out with the words that the things that the Lord has spoken to me.
Okay, well, I just want to say thank you so much for having me as a guest on your show again. It is my pleasure to be here. And you know, you and I, we go back and forth, and you're like, tell me when you're available. Tell me when you're available. And it's like, back to you. Okay, I'm on trial. I'm doing this. I'm gonna catch up with you. And sometimes we just have to push each other and put it in the books. And you reached out yesterday and said, okay, how are you tomorrow? And tomorrow was the day, and it worked. And I'm happy that it did.
Oh, me too. Me too.
I enjoy being here with you. I enjoy listening to you and speaking about listening, and it makes me think. I love being challenged and just learning new things every day, and thinking and really thinking, what does listening mean to me? So I enjoyed this show tonight, and I will be back again. And we'll have many more conversations.
Oh, you most certainly will. You most certainly will. We're gonna definitely get you back, because I enjoy talking with you. I enjoy the perspective that you bring to the table. It's different, and you know, and I think that we need to hear that, not when we're, you know, looking for legal counsel, but just because we need to know, we need to learn, we need to see, we need to experience different perspectives so that we can become better at who we are and what we do.
Yeah.
You have done that for us tonight, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
I really do. You have no idea. You have no idea. And so, you know, we're gonna have our lunch too. We're gonna get together and sit down and break bread together and just chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
So hearing is natural, but listening is an art. If we are not hearing impaired, we respond to sounds of any kind. Some sounds like music can soothe the savage in us. Other sounds like a roaring thunderstorm can warn us of pending disaster. But listening is different. Listening is hearing the silence that's present in the noise. Cultivating your listening skills so that you hear the voice of God is everything, and everything that you do requires work. You must listen while you are reading so that you can weed out the noise and hear his voice. You must listen when you're socializing to hear him speak through the saints and the ain'ts. That is to say, the believers and unbelievers alike. You must learn to listen when walking down the street or riding on a train or a bus and a cab or in a plane or in your car. You must cultivate the art of listening so that you can hear the voice of God any and everywhere. I mentioned the book, What Every Christian Ought to Know Day by Day, and what author Adrian Rogers says about true biblical faith. He says it is, quote, rooted not only in knowing God, but in hearing from the God that you know, unquote. If you do not know God, you won't be able to distinguish his voice from the noise of the world. And the crooked and perverse generation that we live in, you'd better recognize that knowing the voice of God is critically important. Remember what Paul told his readers in the very beginning of the chapter, that his heart's desire was that they may be saved. The cultivation of listening skills leads to the salvation of the eternal soul. That was Paul's central concern. If putting the voice of God and hearing the voice of God is designed to save souls, we absolutely must put on our listening ears. My guest, what can I say but wow? Talk about having listening ears. You put a new spin on the art of listening and then using what you've heard to help set people free, if not physically, spiritually. Because your work helps them to see things from a different perspective, to listen differently. You really are a delight to talk to and a treasure in our community. What would we do without Renee C. Hill? Thank you for being you, unashamedly. So, as a faith family, did you enjoy Renee C. Hill tonight? Renee, did you enjoy your visit with us tonight? You already said you did, so I know you did.
I certainly did. Yes, I did.
I appreciate you. And thank you for taking and sharing your journey with us from your time in the birthplace or at the birthplace of hip hop on Cedric Avenue to being the queen of the Bronx and everything in between. Story that is yet to be told. Your story's not over yet.
That's right.
Thank you for making time for Matters of Faith family. I know how busy you are, but carve out Monday nights on your calendar so that when I call you to come back, you don't have to click or check. You just have to say yes.
All right.
So, and then you can reach out to me and say, I'm available on this day. We'll set the date way in advance. And that's good too. Matters of Faith family, let me just do this to you. If you need a defense attorney, there is none better than Renee C. Hill. None. Richmond Hill and Associates, PLLC, of the Boogie Down Bronx.
Yeah.
They took that from us.
Hey.
They took that from us. They took that from us. Now, don't forget our sponsors and our advertisers. The JLR company, J. Lauren R. Consulting LLC, that's my company, my companies. For all your church financial needs, call 718-328-8096, 718-328-8096, or visit our website, www.jlaurenrussellconsulting.com. You should look at it. Tell me what you think about it. I've not heard from you much about it, but I want you to take a look at it, Matters of Faith family, and tell me what you think. It's got a lot of stuff there, and examine it. If it's not for you, refer me to somebody. I'd love to work with them. It's not about the castle. It's about the kingdom. Matters of Faith, the book. I've been talking about it all night, but this is the book. See how thin it is? You don't have to worry about having to sit down and read it for 6 weeks. Nope. In fact, this book is designed for you to read not from cover to cover, but according to what's going on in your life. Just read the topic and the table of contents, and whatever strikes your attention, that's what you read. And meditate on it for a week. Meditate on it for a week and watch how it speaks to you. Listen for the voice of God through the book. Now, you can also get it. And by the way, how you do that is just send $23.40. I know I said $22 and change, but that's wrong. It's $23.40 because shipping and handling has gone up. Post office keep raising their prices. So it's $23.40, but it covers shipping and handling. My Cash App is $Matters of Faith. Easy enough to remember. Or you can get it as an ebook. That's information is on the chat. You can see it. www.smashwords.com/books/view/993-177. And you'll get it immediately. Now, Better Mag Magazine, www.abettermag.com. Subscribe to this magazine. They picked up my article. They're now carrying my column. But it's a great magazine. It's about Black-owned, female owns it. Gloria Gant, she's been my guest. And a 2-year subscription is only $27.50. They publish quarterly. So $27.50 for 2 years. You don't want to miss that. You don't want to miss that. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Telephone, text, email, message, any way you do it, but tell a friend to join us regularly on Monday nights for Matters of Faith, the radio show. We're always live on Matters of Faith and J. Lauren Russell's Facebook groups. When the show is over, we drop each episode on our Matters of Faith YouTube channel. That's why I ask you every week to subscribe, like, and share the Matters of Faith YouTube channel. Now, the Lord bless you, the Lord keep you. The Lord make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Now, if no one has told you this today, then let me be the first to say that I love you, and there's absolutely nothing that you can do about it. So get used to it. God bless you. Good night. We love you, and I'll see you next week. Thank you again, Renee, for being with us tonight, and we'll see you all next week.